Radio.
This is Recovery Radio Fresno with your host, Louis Angel. Today we got a very special guest calling all the way from North Fort, California. I would like to introduce Mitch Uribas. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, Louis Angel? Yeah, I'm over here in just on the outskirts of Oakhurst, calling from a friend's house, and really excited to be on your show today. Kind of a little bit nervous, you know. Never thought anybody would ever want to hear, anything I'd have to say, let alone my life story, My battle with alcohol and drugs, man, goes way back, even to a time before I was even born. When my father and my mother got together, and my father used to drink and used to beat up my mom. And my mom wasn't going to stick around, Who's going to want to get beaten, by somebody that they love? So she left my dad, and my dad, well, I stayed with her mom.
Blog Talk Radio.
This is Recovery Radio Fresno with your host, Louis Angel. Today we got a very special guest calling all the way from North Fort, California. I would like to introduce Mitch Uribas. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, Louis Angel? Yeah, I'm over here in just on the outskirts of Oakhurst, calling from a friend's house, and really excited to be on your show today. Kind of a little bit nervous.
Introducing a car company.
Never thought anybody would ever want to hear, anything I'd have to say, let alone my life story,
We took
My
the power of a
battle with
9-year-old
alcohol
V8
and drugs,
and gave
man,
it the
goes
impressive
way
handling
back,
of
even to a
Firestone's
time
destination
before I was
tire.
even born. When my father and my
Now,
mother got
moms
together,
agree.
and
Every
my
milk
father
run
used to
feels
drink
like a victory
and
lap.
beat up my mom. And my mom wasn't going to stick around,
So whatever you drive,
Who's going to want to get
drive a
beaten,
Firestone.
by somebody that they love? So she left my dad, and my dad, well, I stayed with her mom. And then my grandfather one day went over there and said, hey, is it all right if we take Mitchell with us to go get him some shoes? And they wound up taking me, and they just never took me back to my mom's mom. And they kept me there with them, living with my dad, but he was hardly ever around. He used to like to drink a lot. And he wound up dying when I was 7. But my Uncle Sammy Uribas, was his younger brother. And I remember him when I was little. I remember him because he was an artist. And I really loved my uncle. I barely remember, pictures in my head. And I had just turned 4, and 2 months later, it was in June I turned 4. 2 months later, in August, he turned 19 on the 1st of August, and he had a party, and he invited some friends, and one of his friends didn't get along with his other friend, and they got into a fight, and my uncle tried to break it up, and one of the guys pulled out a knife and stabbed my uncle. So he was only 19 for maybe 2 weeks. He wound up dying. And then my dad and my uncle were born 4 years apart, and then they died 4 years apart, because after my uncle died, 4 years later, that's when my dad died. He was drunk, and he was with my cousin George Flores, also out from Sanger. And they were headed eastbound on North Avenue, and they ran Clovis, and they ran into a big rig, and he had a 65 Chevelle Malibu Standard and totaled it out and killed both of them. And I grew up without a dad. And my grandfather, I remember when it happened, there was a man that came to the house, and he knocked on the door, and I seen him. There was a white guy with a briefcase, and he asked to come in. We invited him in. It was my grandpa, my grandma, and myself. And he asked, he goes, do you mind if you have the woman and the boy step into the next room? So we were just kicking back in the washroom, and I was listening. I was over there, a little kid, you're hustling around. And the man tells my grandpa, he was, did you know a man by the name of David Uribas? Not do you, but did you? And my grandfather said, yes, that's my son. And the man told him that my dad died, and he brought the death certificate and stuff. I guess he was a coroner or something. And I knew my dad wasn't coming home. But prior to that, I remember seeing my dad. He was trying to get me to go in the house, and I was just hanging on to my dad. Didn't want him to leave. And I was standing at the gate yelling at him to come back. Dad, come back. And I seen him walk away, and that was the last time I seen him alive. I grew up without a pops and just had grandpa and grandma, and life was like pretty tough after that. When Mother's Day rolled around or Father's Day, and I was in school, and everybody's making stuff. Yeah, I'm making this for my mom. I'm making this for my dad, and I didn't have a mom and dad. I brought everything home to my grandfather. My grandmother was sick after my Uncle Sammy died. It broke her heart. Then 4 years later, when my dad died, she really went off the deep end. The next thing you know, she just got real sick. And I remember the time, too, when I was about maybe 8 or 9 years old. I don't know, my grandma, like, flipped out. I don't know what was wrong with her. But, she was losing her mind. And for some reason, she tried to kill me. And it just that traumatized me. She was chasing me in the house with a stick, trying to smash my head in. I remember her sitting on the couch with a pillow holding it up. And my grandfather walks in, and he grabs a stick from her, and she yells at him, like, "Oh, what the hell are you doing?" My grandfather tells me, "Go get in the car." And I ran out of the house. I was scared. I thought I was going to die that day. I was only like 8 or 9 years old. I go get in the car, lock the doors. My grandfather walks out. My grandma's right there hanging on to his shirt, pulling on him. He walks over to his side of the driver's side. I unlock the door. My grandmother walks over to my side. She's trying to get in to get me. My heart's jamming. I'm scared. And then she walks over to the house, grabs a shovel, and she's about ready to like try to smash in the windshield. And my grandfather backs up the car, and it misses the car, and the hood hits the ground. And she grabbed like a wooden bowl or something and threw it at the car, and I was scared. I didn't know what the heck was. I was a little kid. I didn't understand what was going on. Oh, I just was freaking out because Grandma just tried to kill me. I love Grandma. And for like a couple of days, I was just go with my grandfather to work, and I'd sleep in the back seat of the car. And Grandma just got worse and worse. And next thing you know, he had to retire, so he stayed home and took care of her. And I used to help my grandfather take care of my grandmother from the time I was like 8 or 9 all the way until she was 12 when she passed away. But it was hard, like because my grandfather married her, and she had already had 5 kids and had 2 kids with my grandfather, which was my dad and my Uncle Sammy, but she already had 5 children. And those children started having children, and I could see the jealousy, because my grandfather always told me, he goes, "You know what, those kids are going to be jealous of you because you're my real grandson." And I noticed it. I seen it when I was younger. Not so much when I was little, but when I started getting a little bit older, about 10, 11 years old, and I started noticing it. The things they would do, they were never around. I mean, it's like they only came around when they wanted something. It was weird. And so pretty much I was like an isolated kid. I had nobody to play with. It was just me. I had toys, bad toys. My grandfather would buy me some really cool stuff, but I had nobody to play with. And I couldn't leave the yard. I had to stay inside the yard. So I was like, I don't know, just like trapped in my own little world. It's like my own little prison. I would stand at the gate in the front yard or be at the window and looking out the window in the living room, looking at the kids playing out in the street, having fun. I couldn't go out there. I was just stuck in the house. And then my grandfather, I guess he thought it'd be all right to move away, so we moved from a town called Parlier down in the valley, and we moved in with her daughter-in-law, or his daughter-in-law. And we stayed there for a while, wound up moving to Fresno, and I went to, like, what grade was that? Like the beginning of 4th grade. And Grandma was still alive. She was sick. I mean, she got to the point where she wouldn't talk or nothing. It was pretty bad. And she would, like, not make it to the bathroom sometimes, and I would have to help my grandfather, like, wash her clothes. And that was a lot on me, when I was a little kid. I didn't have a normal childhood. And we were in Fresno, and then he noticed there was a problem in my artwork because I started drawing like just things that just were a concern to him. So, like, to any parents out there, you start seeing your children start drawing things that are like off the wall or anything, that could be a possible cry for help. So next thing you know, we packed up and we left and we moved to Sanger. My grandfather raised me in the country. And everything was cool, you know. He wound up teaching me when I was 9. I learned how to drive a standard pickup. By the time I was I was like 10, he gave me a pickup. It was a 1973 Datsun pickup truck. And I had my own car. He had, like 10 years old, I had my own truck. I was in the 4th grade. It was mine. But I can only drive it on the property. And by the time I was 11, he gave me a 22, and it was my job to keep it clean and, you know, keep it loaded, shoot coyotes or jackrabbits or whatever. He told me never shoot straight across, either shoot down or shoot up. So I had a lot of responsibility. You know, who gives a little kid a truck at 10 and then give him a gun at 11? That showed great responsibility for me, you know. I love my grandfather. I miss him. And then when I was about 12, I had my cousin Sandra move in. Sandra, she was really nice. She was like a mom that I didn't have. She was right there to back me up when I was in sports and stuff. And she helped me because I was messing up. You know, I was hanging out with the wrong kids, just causing trouble. Just being a little, I don't know, like a little butthead, I guess. And then she wound up moving out. And in the 6th grade, it was just Grandpa, Grandma, and me. And then she passed away when I was 12. And I remember when the summer I turned 13, my cousin Gloria and her old man, Danny, moved in, and they're the ones that started giving me drugs. I was just out of 6th grade, just turned 13. They started giving me some really hard stuff, man. Started off with weed, started drinking beer. I remember my first beer, it was a Milwaukee's Best. It was nasty. That stuff was awful. I was like, oh, dude, how could you drink this stuff? Because just keep drinking it, it gets better. He corrupted me. And he wasn't very much older. I was calm. I feel bad, though, because my plan was to go get a job, start working, go